He brought up an interesting point, and if there's someone that has a question, come up to Mike so I can know when to shut up. Um, incorporating your body into worship is very, very important. So, in my talk, one of my arguments was showing that you're not just a brain and body, you're more than that, you're a soul. But obviously we work within a brain and body. So I say that to say this. When Paul says he beats his flesh into submission, and that, especially you read in Romans 7, he says, the good I want to do, I don't do, because what I don't want to do, I end up doing, and what I don't want to do, that's what I do want to do, I don't do, what I don't want to do, I end up doing. He said, but I found that there's nothing good within me, that is my flesh, but my inner man wants to do this. So what he's essentially saying, you can see that from the perspective of what we're talking about earlier, substance dualism, where you also know Christ said the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. If you want to learn how to get more in tune with God and beat your flesh into submission, what you have to do is learn how to do things that you don't feel like or want to do. So, here, one of the beautiful examples, and I tell my daughter, hey, I used you today as an example, and she always rolls her eyes. But, she knows. I don't blame her. Especially when she was younger, I'd say something like, hey, Addie, clean your room. And she says, well, I don't feel like it. And I get to her level and I say, that's fine. So that's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. You don't have to feel like it. I'm not asking you to feel like it. I'm just asking you to do it. And I could care less if you feel like it. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just do it. And the point there is, there's times where we don't feel like doing stuff. But the Bible doesn't say, here are the 10 Commandments. As long as you feel like it. If not, you're good. When you do what you don't want to do, and your flesh doesn't want to do, but your spirit knows you should, that's part of discipleship. That's how you get Sermon on the Mount. Christ says, and I'm paraphrasing, this is an Eric standardized version, or perversion, whatever you want to call it, where Christ says, okay, so who here you haven't murdered? Pat yourself on the back. Anybody here commit adultery? No? Pat yourself on the back. But have you thought about it? So he's changing the perspective here of saying, I don't just want behavior modification, I want a heart transformation. In other words, I don't just want you to be the kind of person that refrains from committing adultery or murder. I want you to become the kind of person that does not even think about these kind of things. How do you get to that level of discipline and spiritual formation? By controlling. In order to be able to change what you can't, you have to control what you can. So whenever I teach on spiritual formation, I like to give 2 prescriptions that anyone can do today. If you're at Walmart and you're or HEB, wherever you shop, and you're about to check out, and let's say you look in your basket and you say, you know what, I could do without this. When you get this, whatever that item is, don't do this. Don't go like this. And then you kind of put it underneath, the gum section so nobody sees it. I would encourage you to step out of the line, as long as it is, go back to where you got it from and place it exactly where you got it from. Why? Because while you may not, let's say you have an addiction to pornography or an addiction to something else that you cannot control because your will has become so weak, you're almost trapped in some type of addiction, well, control the things you can. You can get out of a line and go replace something back that you're not going to buy. But what you're doing is you're teaching your flesh, you're not going to control me, and I'm not going to give in to what you want. You're going to have to do what I want, and I want to do what's right. And I'm going to put this back over here. And then when you're after you load your groceries in your car, don't take the grocery basket and then put it behind my car so I can hit it. Put it where the grocery basket belongs. Now, am I saying you're sinning if you don't? No, what I'm saying is when you do these things, you are once again submitting and beating your flesh into submission and making your body do something that it would prefer not to do. When you do that, you actually exercise your soul's ability to will over the body. That's literally, in part, why the Bible recommends fasting. When you get angry, that emotion stems from like a belly kind of an area. So when you fast, you are telling your body, guess what? You don't tell me when to eat. I tell you when to eat because you're not in control here. I am. So when you fast, you can use that as a spiritual discipline because given that you're more than a brain and body, you still have to work within the confines of the chemical composition of the things your brain and body tells you, like, hey, I'm hungry. And you're like, that's fine, but man should not eat by bread alone. Of course, people might think you're weird if you're talking to yourself. But the point is, you're telling your body you don't run things, I do. And then hence you beat your flesh into submission. So that way you can eventually do the things that you want to do that currently you cannot do.